I want to tell you about the frequency, but before I do, I need you to understand something. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe in shadow governments or secret codes or messages from beyond. I'm a sound engineer. I work with frequencies every day. I know the difference between interference and signal, between static and speech, between the random noise of the universe and something made with intention. That's why what happens scares me so much, because I know what I heard, and I know it shouldn't exist. It started with a dead channel. You know the sound, that empty hiss between radio stations, the white noise of a frequency no one is using. Most people hear it and change the dial, but I hear it and listen, not for ghosts, for the pure physics of it, the cosmic microwave background, the echo of the Big Bang, the sound of atoms bumping into each other. It's beautiful, in a way. Chaos with a pattern. I was working late in my home studio, around 1 in the morning. I'd been mastering a podcast for a client. Nothing interesting, just a true crime thing about unsolved disappearances. I'd listened to the same voice tracks so many times that I'd started to hate the sound of my own speakers. So I took a break. I pulled up an SDR, a software-defined radio, and started scanning through the shortwave bands. Just to clear my ears, I skipped past the usual stuff. Religious broadcasts in Spanish, time signals, a ham operator arguing with someone about antennas. Then I landed on a frequency that shouldn't have had anything, 4,625 kilohertz. The UVB-76 channel, the old Russian buzzer. If you don't know about UVB-76, it's this weird station that's been broadcasting the same sound for decades. A low, repetitive buzz, like a doorbell that got stuck. Sometimes a voice comes on and says a few words in Russian. Names, numbers, nonsense. No one knows who runs it or why. Most people think it's a dead hand system, a relic of the Cold War, a switch that will never be flipped. I've listened to it before. It's usually just the buzz. But that night, something was different. The buzz was off. Slower. Lower in pitch. It sounded tired, if a mechanical sound can be tired. I turned up the gain and leaned closer to my monitors. Underneath the buzz, there was something else. A whisper. Very faint, almost below the threshold of hearing. I boosted the signal, ran it through a noise filter, and the whisper became words. The voice was male. Flat. Monotone. It spoke in English, but not any English I'd ever heard. The grammar was wrong. The cadence was wrong. It sounded like someone had fed a dictionary into a speech synthesizer and told it to read words it didn't understand. The door is not a door. The sky is not the sky. You are walking on teeth. I sat back. My first thought was that someone was hijacking the frequency, broadcasting a prank. It happens sometimes. Pirate radio stations, hackers, art projects. I almost laughed, but then the voice continued. Listeners to this frequency will experience the following symptoms: ringing in the ears, a feeling of being watched, cold spots in rooms without drafts, objects moving slightly when you are not looking. These symptoms will begin within 6 hours of first exposure. They will not stop. The buzz returned, louder this time, back to its normal pitch. I sat there for a long time, staring at the spectrogram on my screen. The pattern was normal, nothing unusual. I told myself it was a prank. It had to be a prank. I went to bed at 2. At 2:30, I woke up because my ears were ringing, not the high-pitched whine of tinnitus. This was different. A low, pulsing hum, like a bass note played far away. I pressed my palm against my ear. The hum didn't stop. It got louder. I got up and walked to my bathroom. The mirror was fogged. I hadn't taken a shower. The air wasn't humid. But the mirror was fogged anyway, and in the fog, someone had written 3 words. "You are listening." I wiped the mirror. The words smeared, then disappeared. Behind me, the bathroom was empty. I checked the window. Locked. The door. Closed. I went back to bed and lay there with the lights on, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum that no one else could hear. The next night, I went back to the frequency. I told myself I was being scientific. If the broadcast was real, I could record it, analyze it, prove it was a hoax. I set up my ear. I tuned to 4,625 kilohertz. The buzz was there, normal and boring. I waited. At exactly 1:47 a.m., the buzz changed. Slower, lower. The whisper returned this time. It was a different voice. Female, Still flat, still monotone, but with a quality I can only describe as hungry. There are 9 of you listening right now, 9 people on this frequency. You have been chosen, not because you are special, because you are alone, because no one will believe you, because when you disappear, no one will look in the right places. I looked at the SDR's connection log. It showed only one listener, me. There was no way the broadcaster could know how many people were tuned in, unless the broadcast wasn't coming from a transmitter, unless it was coming from somewhere else. Somewhere that could see me, the voice continued. The first listener will forget his name by morning. The second listener will see a face in her window that is not her reflection. The third listener will hear footsteps in the attic. The fourth listener will find scratches on the inside of his front door. I was the first. No, that didn't make sense. I was alone, unless they were counting in order of connection, unless I was the first. The fifth listener will lose 7 hours of time. The sixth listener will find a door in her house that she has never seen before. The seventh listener will be watched. The eighth listener will be touched. The ninth listener will be invited. The voice stopped. The buzz returned. I looked at my watch. 1:48 a.m. The broadcast had lasted exactly 1 minute. I went to bed. I slept badly. In the morning, I couldn't remember my middle name. It was on the tip of my tongue for hours. I had to pull out my birth certificate to remind myself. That had never happened before. I told myself it was stress, lack of sleep, the power of suggestion, but that night I didn't tune back in. I stayed away from the radio. I watched TV. I made dinner. I tried to be normal, and for a few hours it worked. The hum in my ears faded. The cold spots. There had been cold spots, I realized, in my kitchen and my hallway, seemed less cold. Then I went to brush my teeth. The bathroom mirror was clear. No fog. No writing. I leaned close to check my pupils. I'd been having headaches, and that's when I saw the face in the window. My bathroom window is small, frosted glass, above the toilet. No one could see through it, but something was pressed against it from the outside. A face, pale, featureless, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a smooth oval of skin, pressed against the glass like a child pressing their face against a candy store window. I stumbled backward. I blinked. The face was gone. I ran to the window and opened it. The outside was empty. Just the dark yard, the fence, the neighbor's lights. But the glass was warm, warm in a cold night. Like something had been breathing on it for a long time. I closed the window. I locked it. I went to bed. The footsteps started at midnight. Above me, in the attic. I don't have an attic. My building has a flat roof. There is no space above my ceiling. But the footsteps were there anyway. Slow, heavy, deliberate. They walked from one end of the apartment to the other, back and forth, back and forth. I lay in bed with the covers pulled to my chin, listening to the ceiling creak, telling myself it was the building settling. It went on for 3 hours. Then it stopped, and something knocked on my front door. Not a knock, a scratch, like fingernails dragging down the wood. Long, slow, deliberate. One scratch from top to bottom, then another, then another. I didn't move, I didn't breathe. The scratching went on for what felt like an hour. Then it stopped, and a voice, the flat, monotone voice from the broadcast, whispered through the wood. The fourth listener has received his scratches. I checked my front door the next morning. The outside was fine, unmarked, but the inside, the side facing my living room, had 3 deep gouges in the wood, starting at the top and running all the way to the bottom, fresh, raw. Like someone had been inside my apartment, scratching from the inside out. I called the police. They filed a report. They said it was probably a break-in attempt. They said to change my locks. They didn't see the way the scratches curved, like fingers, like nails, like something that had hands but didn't know how to use them. That was the 4th night. I didn't listen to the frequency again. I didn't have to. The broadcasts started coming through my speakers, even when they were turned off, my computer, my phone. The little Bluetooth speaker in my bathroom. At random times, not just 1:47 a.m., I would hear the buzz, and then the voice, reciting the list again. The first listener. The second. I was still the first, but the others, the other 8, they were real. Somewhere out there, 8 other people were going through the same thing. 8 other people who had tuned into a dead frequency and heard something that should have been silence. I tried to find them. I posted on forums, on Reddit, on fringe radio communities. I asked if anyone else had heard the broadcast on 4,625 kilohertz. Most people thought I was crazy. A few said they'd heard something similar but dismissed it as interference. One person, a woman in Oregon, sent me a private message. She said she'd been listening to shortwave for 20 years. She'd heard the altered buzz 3 nights ago. She'd heard the voice, and she'd been waking up with scratches on her bedroom door. She was the 4th listener. I was the 1st. We exchanged numbers. We talked for hours. She told me about the cold spots, the footsteps, the face at the window. I told her about the forgotten name, the mirror, the hum that wouldn't stop. We agreed to document everything. We agreed to stay in touch. The next morning she didn't answer her phone, or the next. On the 4th day her number was disconnected. I checked online, no obituaries, no news, just silence. Like she had never existed. That was when I noticed the door. The one in my hallway that I had never seen before. I've lived in this apartment for 6 years. I know every wall, every corner, every closet. But one morning, I walked past the hallway that leads to my bedroom, and there it was, a door. Wooden, painted the same color as the wall, with a brass knob that looked old and tarnished. It was between 2 studs where no door could possibly fit. I could see the drywall seams on either side, but the door was there anyway. I didn't open it. I knew I wasn't supposed to open it. The voice had said the 8th listener would be touched. The 9th would be invited. I was the 1st. But I had listened 6 times now. 6 nights. Maybe the count had changed. Maybe the rules had changed. I put a bookshelf in front of the door. I nailed 2x4s across the frame. I did everything I could to keep it shut. But every morning, I find the bookshelf moved, the boards on the floor, and the door is open a crack. Just a crack. Just wide enough to see that the other side is not my apartment. It's not any apartment. It's dark. Not the dark of a room with the lights off. The dark of a place where light has never been, and something breathes in that dark. I can hear it. Slow, wet, patient. Last night I woke up because my phone was ringing. 1:47 a.m., unknown number. I answered. I don't know why. Maybe because I was tired of being afraid. It wasn't the voice from the broadcast. It was a different voice. A human voice. A woman. She sounded scared. You're the 1st listener, she said. I'm the 7th. They told me to call you. They said you could help. I asked her who they were. She said the ones on the other side of the door. The ones who speak through the frequency. They said you opened the door. They said you let them in. I told her I hadn't opened anything. I told her the door was still closed. She started to cry. They lied to me, she whispered. They said if I called you, they'd let me go. But they're not going to let me go. They never let anyone go. I can see them now. Behind you. I spun around. My bedroom was empty. But the door in the hallway was open, wide open. And the dark inside it was moving, not swirling or churning, just moving like a muscle flexing. And from that dark, a hand reached out. Long, pale, too many fingers. It didn't reach for me. It reached for my phone. I dropped the call. The hand retreated back into the dark. The door slammed shut, and the frequency, the buzz, started playing from every speaker in my apartment at once. Louder than I've ever heard it. So loud that the windows shook. So loud that I felt it in my teeth. Then the voice. The flat, monotone voice. But this time it wasn't speaking to the listeners. It was speaking to me. The 1st listener has been touched. The 1st listener will now be invited. Open the door, step through. The silence on the other side is very kind. It has been waiting for you. It has been waiting for all of you. 9 listeners, 9 doors, 9 invitations. Say yes.